And our mission today is to unpack how this niche technology, they're called electro-optic polymers, and the company pioneering them, Lightwave Logic, are trying to basically solve this whole thing.
It's a huge undertaking. We need to look at the physics of the problem, the radical business pivot they had to make, the gatekeepers of the microchip world, and honestly, the geopolitical tensions underlying all of it.
Let's start with the physical problem because the whole tech industry is frantically experimenting to scale up these interconnects between super fast processors. And from the outside, it seems like everyone is just obsessed with raw speed.
They are. I mean, the sheer volume of data you need to train modern AI is forcing that obsession. But there's a paradigm shift happening. It was really highlighted in a March 7th presentation in Ghent by Yves Lemaitre.
Okay, what was his main takeaway?
His core argument was basically, yes, think speed, but you absolutely have to think integration too. It literally doesn't matter how fast a modulator is if you can't seamlessly integrate it into the existing silicon photonics foundries.
So this is where Lightwave's logic and their electro-optic polymers come in, right?
Right. Instead of forcing silicon to do a job it hates, they engineered these highly advanced organic polymers. You apply just a tiny whisper of voltage, and its optical properties change instantly. Super fast, almost no power, and crucially, almost no heat.
Okay, but having a miracle material in a lab is one thing. Surviving the semiconductor business is a whole other beast. Because a few years ago, Lightwave Logic was trying to do, well, literally everything themselves, weren't they?
Yeah, they were spread dangerously thin. Developing the materials, licensing the IP, trying to build the actual silicon photonics chips, and packaging them.
Against giant multi-billion-dollar competitors.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which led to this radical strategic pivot. They essentially said, okay, we're going to stop building the complete modules. We are strictly going to be the material supplier, the polymer, and the IP partner.
Okay, I have to push back on this, though. I was looking at their financial realities in the sources.
Sure.
If they step back and let other people build the final hardware, aren't they leaving a ton of money on the table? Doesn't the company that builds the final hardware get all the glory and the bulk of the profit?
On the surface, it feels that way. But institutional investors actually vastly prefer this new strategy.
Really?
Why? Well, those institutional investors, who, by the way, now hold roughly 30% of the company after a December private placement, they see this as the ultimate picks and shovels play.
Ah, selling the shovels to the gold miners instead of mining yourself.
Exactly. Supplying a unique, incredibly hard-to-copy material yields massive gross margins. We're talking projected margins of 60% or more. Building hardware is intensely capital-heavy. Supplying the IP is incredibly lucrative if the industry adopts it.
If they adopt it.
Right, which was a big hurdle. But the expert analysis points to a crucial reliability update they released about 10 months ago. They proved their materials wouldn't degrade under data center conditions, which finally won back the industry's credibility.
Okay, but that pivot creates a new problem. If you're just supplying the recipe, the polymer, you need a kitchen to actually bake it in.
Right, and in the semiconductor world, those kitchens are the foundries.
And these foundries are massive gatekeepers. The sources make it clear that Fortune 500 hyperscalers, Meta, Google, NVIDIA, they already have their favorite foundries.
They absolutely do.
They basically tell component makers, hey, we love your tech, but you have to make it work in our specific foundry.
Yeah, they demand that seamless integration. Which is why Lightwave Logic bringing in Robert Blum as VP of Sales was so critical. He came from Intel. He knows exactly how to aggressively open those specific foundry channels.
Which brings us to the big news drop. Because on March 11th, 2026, there was a major press release.
Yeah, this is huge.
Lightwave Logic announced a development agreement with Tower Semiconductor.
Right, and they are integrating their 110 gigahertz plus modulator designs directly into Tower's PH18 silicon photonics platform.
For 200G and 400G applications. And they specifically mentioned engineering tapeouts are scheduled for this year.
Yes. A tape-out is basically when a chip design is finalized and sent to the foundry to actually be manufactured. It's the proof that the recipe works in the big commercial kitchen.
And Tower is just one part of this, right? The supply chain analysis points out a whole network effect happening here.
Oh, definitely. There's Silterra, Global Foundries, plus 2 other major foundries they haven't even announced yet.
Wait, so just partnering with those 4 foundries could potentially cover, what, 40% of the total client market?
Roughly 40%, yeah. And we can't forget their partnership with Lucida Photonics over in Belgium.
Right, the software side.
Yeah, Lucida makes the design tools. This acts as a massive force multiplier. It means countless engineers globally can just open their software, and easily drag and drop these polymer designs into their new chips.
I want to dig into that global foundries connection for a second, because there is a really deep kind of nerdy cut in the supply chain analysis that I found fascinating.
Oh, the AMF acquisition.
Yes. So back in 2019, Global Foundries bought a company called Advanced Micro Foundry, AMF.
Right.
Why does that matter to someone listening today?
Because AMF was already a known frontrunner in integrating organic materials and electro-optic polymers into silicon photonics.
So wait, this means Global Foundries didn't just stumble into working with Lightwave Logic recently.
Not at all.
They bought AMF years ago because they knew organic polymer integration was the future. They literally prepped the kitchen for this exact recipe before Lightwave Logic even walked through the door.
Exactly. The industry has seen this bottleneck coming for years. But seeing it coming and actually securing the contracts to fix it are two different things. And we really need to look at the financial ticking clock here.
Right, let's talk raw numbers. Because the total addressable market, the TAM, is $27 billion this year alone.
It's massive.
And Lightwave Logic wants 5 to 10% of that. But if you look at their 2025 revenue, it was only $237,000.
Yeah, that's a huge gap.
And they're burning around $20 to $26 million a year. Their cash runway only lasts until December 2027.
Which makes 2026 a make-or-break year. They have to hit major milestones. They currently have 3 Fortune Global 500 clients evaluating the tech. One of them is already testing a massive 1.6 terabit transceiver.
And the results for that are expected around summer, right?
Yes, and they desperately need to move these clients from technical talks, what the industry calls stage 3, to actual commercial production contracts, which is stage 4.
Right, before the money runs out. And it's not like they're operating in a vacuum. There's a major geopolitical rival technology in play here, TFLN.
Thin film lithium niobate.
Now, I want to be super clear with you, the listener. We are impartially relaying the market and supply chain analysis from the sources here. We are not taking any political stance.
Right, we're just looking at the supply chain realities. And the reality is, China currently dominates TFLN production.
Right.
And according to the sources, because of U.S.-China trade tensions and leverage over rare earth metals, Chinese firms prefer to control their own supply chains. They aren't rushing to reverse engineer these new American polymer chips.
So what does that mean for Western tech giants?
It means Western companies are highly motivated to develop this polymer alternative. They want to secure their own completely independent supply chains without relying on a geopolitical rival's material.
That makes total sense. So it's not just about physics, it's about supply chain security.
Exactly.
So let's bring this all home. Why does any of this matter to you listening right now? Because your ever-increasing hunger for data on your personal devices, despite global conflicts or supply chain woes, relies entirely on solving this microscopic traffic jam.
It really is the invisible foundation of the future internet. If this bottleneck doesn't get solved, all of these AI promises just hit a wall.
But there is one final, totally provocative thought from the sources that we haven't even touched on yet.
Oh, the quantum and AR applications.
Yes. So everyone is fixated on AI data centers right now. But the sources briefly mention that these exact same low-power, high-speed polymers are being eyed for quantum computing and augmented reality hardware.
Yeah, AR and VR. Think about it. The problem with AR glasses right now is heat and battery life. You can't put a hot, power-hungry chip right on someone's face.
Right, it would burn you, or the battery would die in 10 minutes.
Exactly. But if these microscopic polymers can process massive visual data with almost zero heat and almost zero battery drain.
Wait, really? So this could be the secret key that finally makes lightweight everyday AR glasses a reality?
That's what the analysis points toward, yeah.
That is wild. The idea that the exact same tech trying to save massive AI server farms could permanently replace the smartphone screen we stare at all day, that is, well, that's definitely something to chew on.
It really is.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the invisible plumbing of the future. We'll see you next time.